This is Rock and Roll in Excess, a short history of bootlegs. The term bootleg originally referred to the practice of smuggling alcohol in the leg of a boot during the Prohibition era in the United States. Around the same time, in the 1920s, unofficial and unauthorized recordings of mostly jazz music began appearing in different parts of the country. These recordings were produced and distributed illegally. The recording industry was still in its early stages, and the technology for making records was relatively simple. This made it easier for individuals to create unauthorized copies of popular recordings. Bootleggers would often record live performances or make copies of existing records without permission from the artist or record labels. One notable example from the 1940s is the unauthorized recording of a Carnegie Hall concert by Louis Armstrong in 1947. The recording became widely circulated as a bootleg and was not officially released until decades later. Because they violated copyright laws, bootleg records were typically sold on the black market or through underground channels. These recordings could feature live performances, unreleased tracks, or alternative versions of popular songs. The quality of bootleg recordings varied greatly depending on the source. In subsequent decades, bootlegging expanded to include unauthorized studio outtakes or other unreleased material from various artists. With the introduction of cassette tapes and later digital formats, the proliferation of bootleg recordings grew. The first successful bootleg in terms of sales and infamy was Bob Dylan's The Great White Wonder. Released in 1969, The Great White Wonder is often used to describe the original double LP release, which featured a plain white cover with no text, labels, or indication of its contents. The 26 tracks consisted of outtakes and unreleased recordings from Dylan's sessions in the 1960s. These included alternative versions of well-known songs and tracks that had not been officially released at the time. Dylan's label, Columbia Records, were not pleased with this release, and efforts began in earnest by other labels to enforce rules that violated copyright laws. These grant exclusive rights to creators of original works and prohibit others from reproducing, distributing, or publicly performing those works without permission. They also violated trademark infringement issues and were considered unfair competition. This did nothing to stop the selling and manufacturing of bootleg recordings, however. The 1970s saw the heyday of illegal recordings. Unofficial LPs of the Beatles, The Who, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and others flooded the market. Legal action was taken against the bootleggers, but the underground nature of the market made it difficult to control. Along with LPs and cassettes, compact discs in the 1980s and 90s further facilitated the production and distribution of bootlegs. The digital era saw an increase in the availability of these unauthorized recordings on the internet. Napster was the first peer-to-peer music sharing site offering access to pirated music for users for free, without permission. Its popularity grew so quickly and exponentially that musicians took notice and started complaining. In April of 2000, Metallica sued the company that owned Napster for copyright infringement and racketeering. And though they fully were within their rights to do so, this created a strong backlash for fans of Napster, and specifically those of Metallica, whose popularity and early appeal grew in part from their encouraging fans to swap cassettes of the band's performances. This did, however, mark the beginning of the end for Napster. It should be noted that while most bands were against bootlegging concerts, one notable exception was the Grateful Dead. They actually encouraged the audience to tape their concerts and shared them with other fans. They created a tapers section behind the soundboard to allow fans to capture the best sound. Taping and trading would become a Grateful Dead subculture. As Jerry Garcia stated, "Well, my feelings are the music is for the people, you know. I mean, after it leaves our instruments, it's of no value to us." Despite the legal and ethical issues surrounding bootlegs, they are considered collector's items by some. Fans appreciate the opportunity to hear rare or unreleased material from their favorite artists and access rare tracks. Though online marketplaces like eBay and Discogs have disallowed the selling of bootlegs, it's not difficult to find other online venues for selling and buying unofficial recordings. So despite all the legal and ethical arguments to the contrary, it's difficult to imagine their disappearance from the marketplace completely. Their availability over the last 100 years gives testament to that, and to the dogged pursuits by fans to acquire music of their favorite artists by whatever means. If you like this video, subscribe, like, and we'll keep doing more.